And so I would encourage us not to spend too much time trying to ensure that somehow we avoid the critics, because I think they're going to be there one way or the other.
I certainly understand the point about the critics. And I'm certainly aware that we're going to hear about that no matter what happens.
Mayor, I don't think we're going to silence the critics. I already said that. But I affirm again, anything we can take off the critics' ability to criticize.
Welcome to Truman's Town Hall with your host, Matt Truman.
Hello, and good morning. Welcome. Thank you for downloading this episode. Thank you for sharing with a friend. Today on the podcast, we have a lot to go over. First, let's talk about a couple of things. Gallup reports Americans' trust in government to handle problems at new low. That was from January 31st, 2019. According to U.S. News and World Report, Congress is at 18% rating. And of course, on March 17th, there was a poll on Brick City Town Hall. This has always been designed as a political group for Huber Heights local government. Rate the performance and direction of your Huber Heights City Council. The majority clicked neutral. That was the majority. 10 votes for neutral, 9 votes for people who agree, 4 votes disagree, 1 vote strongly disagrees. It's not a scientific poll, it was just a group poll, but it says a lot if you look at who voted and when they voted. I believe there's always been those who have questioned government. Are we not supposed to question government? Are we supposed to just unilaterally trust government? Because what government says is always the truth. Is that what we are supposed to do? And breaking news, in case you didn't hear, Julian Assange, the man who runs WikiLeaks, has been arrested. The Ecuadorian embassy removed his asylum status, and he was arrested. The Daily Mail reports U.S. charges Julian Assange with hacking hundreds of thousands of classified documents. Is that a conspiracy theory? Prior to this podcast, there were 2 other podcasts. Well, 3 podcasts. From Truman's Town Hall, episode 18, Millions and Millions, we discussed the upcoming city work session. That work session happened. Episode 19, we talked about the TIF district in Lexington Place and the discussion that went around that. And some of the controversy went along with that. Episode number 20, You Lose. We talked about the City Council agenda for 8 April 2019. This will be episode 21, and we're going to talk about that and more on Truman's Town Hall today. We're going to talk about conspiracies that are abound, in quotes, and we're going to talk about the responsibility of city government and transparency. And throughout this podcast, we're going to be posing the question, do you unilaterally trust government? Will you trust government? Is it our responsibility to trust government? Okay, moving on. So, April 8th, 2019, City Council had its regular session. I tuned in. I watched. I listened to the city manager report. The agenda was a basic agenda. I heard this, the clip I'm about to play, and I had questions.
The other thing is that we have a administrative meeting with administrators and staff of the school district tomorrow, and we will be discussing, first of all, just an introduction and welcome for the oncoming school administrator, but as well discuss some of the topics of previous meeting regarding the pilot payments to payment CRAs and everything, just to review and go over and confirm some of the information on schedules and payments for that. So we will provide information back from that in preparation for any future elected official meetings that we have scheduled. So other than that, everything is still going as it was last week when I gave an update.
So I had questions, and you're saying, well, why did you have questions about that? Because on April 2nd, from the work session, city council left with direction for the city staff. So on April the 2nd, the city council work session, where the business is discussed, debated, hashed out, and the agenda is put together with council right there at the work session. It's called a work session for a reason. Minute 44:05.
So I've heard a couple different ideas on how to move forward with this from any kind of legislation for Monday night. So I think I would need to hear a majority of an objection to moving forward with placing a non-school TIF on the agenda for Monday, along with a resolution to withhold that April payment. Again, I think, as Mr. Lyons said, could be released later, assuming we don't get any information from legal counsel that's a problem between now and the meeting.
Okay, let's stop right there. That's Mayor Gore. Mayor Gore also said this.
I think everybody knows I work for the school, so as long as this council doesn't have a problem with me signing a letter to the school board that Mr. Rogers put together, I'd be more than happy to sign that letter.
Mayor, if that puts you in a difficult spot as vice mayor for now, I'd be happy to sign it. And I'm being serious so long as I can agree with it. But I agree with Mr. Shaw. There ought to be communication however the council wants to handle that, but I'd make that offer.
I would be completely fine with the vice mayor signing that letter. Mr. Lyons?
And I would further agree that Mr. Morgan would take on that responsibility as vice mayor, just to keep us the simplicity of a conflict completely out of the equation.
Yeah, and in fact, the main reason that I have been okay discussing this at this point is because it's a non-school TIF. It's a non-participating TIF that we're talking about. Once we enter the realm of if there is anything else that comes back around like that, then certainly I would have Mr. Morgan take
that's certainly at your pleasure, and that's at your decision. But I would just recommend that Mr. Morgan has wise advice, and I would certainly recommend you go that route.
I am 100% okay with that.
So we have to put this into context. Let me try to make this a little more clear. At the end of the discussion for the Lexington Place TIF district, the mayor said the only reason he was comfortable in discussing this was because they were talking only about a non-school TIF. We just played that.
So I've heard a couple different ideas on how to move forward with this from any kind of legislation for Monday night. So I think I would need to hear a majority of an objection to moving forward with placing a non-school TIF on the agenda for Monday.
Item 1.
Along with a resolution to withhold that April payment. Again, I think, as Mr. Lyons said, could be released later, assuming we don't get any information from legal counsel that's a problem between now and the meeting.
Item 2 and 3.
That's how I'm assuming we're going to move forward. That's how I would instruct Tony to prepare the agenda, unless I hear a majority objection at this point.
There was not a majority objection at that point. On April 8th, we played what the city manager's report was. At no time during that meeting was city government transparent in telling you, no, we did not hear back from the city manager. That we didn't hear back from not city manager, city attorney. So we had to take those 2 items off the agenda. Would it have been transparent to say, I'm meeting with the school board. There will be no actions taken. The reason we came from the work session with agenda items not on this council meeting is because the city attorney has not gotten back to us on the items that I asked. Is it also safe to say that the mayor, who is an employee of the school board, is not only talking about and asking about a non-school TIF, but also defunding the same district he works for? Is that a conspiracy theory? Am I making that up, or is that what was discussed? I played the video. It's online. hhoh.org. I know it's easy to throw out that, you're a conspiracy theorist. You're making things up. I don't think I need to play those clips again and again and again for people of the city, the listeners of this podcast, to understand that sometimes citizens are going to question the government. Citizens, American citizens specifically, have an inherent distrust of government. That is just how it is. Politicians often spin, deflect in order to produce the agenda that they want. That is part of controlling the message. When controlling members, let's just say of Congress, have a majority, whose agenda goes forward? Not the minority agenda, the majority agenda. Civic-minded folks, the folks that are listening to this podcast, understand that. And that makes others nervous. That people are listening to what's going on, what really is going on. They're hearing it. They have thoughts. They have questions. But that's not what folks want you to have. They don't want you to question. They don't want you to have questions. If you do, you're a conspiracy theorist. So I did have questions. And thankfully, we have a group, Brick City Town Hall, where we can discuss this kind of stuff and ask questions. I didn't produce a conspiracy theory on any of the podcasts. I played their words from their meeting. So I posted. You may have heard the discussion from last week's work session about the city of Huber Heights potentially withholding funds from the Huber Heights City Schools. Tonight, during the regular session meeting, the city manager reported a meeting between administrators for tomorrow. No announcement where or what time. That's all I said. I added to that a link to the Ohio Attorney General's website for sunshine laws, because I don't know, there are no minutes kept during the meeting between the two administrations. It was just, as reported by the city officials, an informational gathering meeting. One city official responded to this post. Matt, my personal opinion is that our city manager has arranged to meet with the new Huber Heights City School superintendent. It is not related to the TIF proposal or the pilot payment agreement. Well, not having the inside, not knowing what happens behind closed doors, and only getting the information that we get as individuals, citizens, residents, voters, this is what we heard.
The other thing is that we have a administrative meeting with administrators and staff of the school district tomorrow, and we will be discussing, first of all, just an introduction and welcome for the oncoming school administrator.
Okay, there's the introduction to the oncoming school administrator. Roger, check. Sounds great.
But as well, discuss some of the topics of previous meeting regarding the pilot payments, TIP payments, CRAs, and everything, just to review and go over and confirm some of the information on schedules and payments for that. So,
okay. My personal opinion is that our city manager has arranged to meet with the new Huber Heights City School superintendent. It is not related to the TIF proposal or the pilot payment agreement. This is not a conspiracy.
But as well, discuss some of the topics of previous meeting regarding the pilot payments, TIP payments, CRAs, and everything, just to review and go over and confirm some of the information on schedules and payments for that. So,
okay, so on April the 2nd, what was the discussion about schedules and payments? The discussion entirely, and where they ended up at, the discussion of that was withholding the money. That was the discussion. Is that what they were going to be talking about? We don't know. We won't know until Monday. And I can only report what is given to me. I can only report what is on the website. I can only report from what the meeting is. I'm not creating conspiracy theories. I'm asking questions. And it's okay to question your government, ladies and gentlemen. It is okay. Do not let them intimidate you and say, no, it's not okay to question your government. What we say is the way it is. And let's be honest. I do respect their opinion. I do respect the city officials. I respect the city government. I respect the politicians. But I also understand that there are times when agenda